So there's speaking about names. We were just talking offline about names, and I heard something beautiful today. There's a I'm going to forget his name right now. I'll think of it in a minute. When it comes to me, I will tell you. There's a phenomenal rabbi that he has this beautiful, phenomenal accent. I'll send it along later when I remember. I'll try to remember his name. And he was talking about the power of names because the Torah portion that we start over here, or we start the new book, we start the second book of the five books of Moses. We start the second book, the book of the Exodus. But if you look in the Hebrew, it's not called Exodus. That's not the word that's used. The word that's used is Shemos or Shemot. And Shemot means names. So why is it that the book, we refer to as Exodus, because it is the story of the Exodus, right? The Jews are going to go through the slavery process in the land of Egypt, and then we're going to be freed. So, okay, the book of the Exodus makes sense. But why is it that the way that it's referred to, this book is referred to as Sefer Shemos? The first book, Genesis, is called Bereshis. Well, the first Torah portion of all of the Torah is called Bereshis, Genesis. Okay, that makes sense. And it is. The whole book is about the beginning of the Jewish people, the beginning of mankind. And now we start the second book over here, and it's going to be talking about the book of Exodus. And it uses, the way we refer to it, as the book of Shemos, the book of names. So it's not just that the first verse says Elah Shemos B'nai Yisrael. These are the names of the children of Israel. What's bigger? What's more? What's deeper? What's going on over here? Why is it referred to as the book of Shemos, the book of names? So part of what this rabbi was suggesting is that a name is not just the way that we refer to something. A name is what you are or what it is, right? It tells you about, right? In English language, we have a noun, right? You have a noun. A noun is when you use a noun, the noun tells you what the thing is. We use the word table because the word table defines for us what this thing is. It's a table, right? You want to explain what it is. Okay, it's a piece of wood or a flat something across the top, and it sits on four legs, and this is what its function is, right? But the word table, what's the name of this object? The name of this object is table. And you know what a table is. The Jewish people over here, we talk about on Seder night. We mentioned in the Haggadah that what was one of the things that kept the Jewish people strong, what allowed the Jewish people to eventually be freed or to stay separate, really, which is part of what drove them into slavery, and part of what got them freed from their slavery, was the fact that they held on to their Hebrew names, which actually is interesting for the topic we were just talking about offline, is about having names that weren't having a secular name, right? So much so, there's some discussion in the world of halacha that we need that a person really, my Rabbi Gibber, who some of you have met, Rabbi Gibber in Providence, the head of the school in Providence, he was very careful to actually call people by their Hebrew names, especially if you had more than one name. He didn't just call me Noach. He called me Noach Gedalia, because my full name is Noach Gedalia. When I get called to the Torah, I get called as Noach Gedalia. If you have an individual that's not getting called to the Torah too often, so you actually start to lose your name, even halachically. There's some discussion about whether or not you would lose what's the name that you go by. For example, if somebody has to get a divorce, is getting divorced, and they get a Jewish divorce document. On there, they write their Hebrew name, but they also write Hamachuna, the way that they're known. He's also known as Steve, Bob, Harry, Jack, Michael, or even a nickname, Jay, right? They're going to go by, they make sure to write on there the nickname or the name that they're called by, because that becomes who you are, who we are. That is who we are. So the way the book of Exodus starts off, it starts off with our names. These are the names of the Jewish people: Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, the names of the tribes. Because as we learned in the last week's Torah portion, the last portion of the book of Genesis, when Jacob was about to pass, he tells each of the tribes about their strength, about their uniqueness, who they are, what their strength is, what their weakness is, who they are. And that helped to define or put into the DNA of each of the tribes, every member of those tribes, that particular energy. And we know there's an idea that when it comes to naming a baby, the parents or whoever does the naming, right, they actually get a spark of divine inspiration when they give the child the name. Now, I don't know how that works nowadays when somebody can buy a book of baby names and randomly do and then pick a paper, right? Oh, that's it. Page 276, sixth name down in the third column. Okay, well, there's some sort of divine inspiration there that allowed you to call that kid, I don't know, pick it, Coral. I don't know. Whatever the most, common name is nowadays, Louis, right? So, Sydney, right? So pick your name. But there's a certain level of divine inspiration that comes down to an individual and they name somebody. So much so if we look in the Torah, all the way back in the first book of the Torah, in Book of Genesis, the animals came to Adam. Adam looked at the animal, understood who that animal was and what they were, and then named them. The names that were given to the Jewish names, the Hebrew names for animals, the Lashon HaKodesh, the holy name for animals, tells us about that animal because that brings out or it defines what that animal is. So the same thing is for us. So the Jewish people, you wherever you stick somebody, let's say you throw somebody into, God forbid, someone's thrown into prison. They don't lose their name. They might just now be Bob that is physically inside of prison, but they're still Bob. Right? This is we talk about this Pesach time every year. We talk about Andy Dufresne, right? We talk about Shawshank Redemption because he was free within the walls of Shawshank. Right? He says at a certain point, you can't take that away from me. You might be able to control me or can define or control where I am, but who I am, that you can't. That you can't change. That you can't control. You can try really hard, but I'm still Andy. Even though I might be stuck inside of the walls of Shawshank, but I am still Andy. Even though I might be in a different situation in life that I'm not so excited about, or someone's trying to control me, but I'm still Noach Karp. And I need to strive to be the Noach Karp that's supposed to be. Or you could change my location, change my setting, change my situation, change my environment. But that doesn't change who I'm supposed to be. I need to make sure to be the Noach of that environment. I talk to my kids about this all the time. I'm one of my kids, I'm the best in my class at blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's wonderful. That's great, right? But what does that actually define about you? What does that tell us about you? I'm the worst at it. Okay. You have to worry about being the best you possible. No matter what's going on in life, you need to work on being the best you, the best me, the best us. And that's what our name tells us. So when we talk about the book of Exodus, that's exactly what was so unique and special about the Jewish people. That even when we're in exile, even when we're not where we ultimately should be, could be, would be, it doesn't matter. We are still supposed to behave and act and carry ourselves as a Jewish person. Recognize our unique role, figure out who we are, and become that. Become the best Alan, Jeffrey, or Steve. That's what we work on becoming. So much so when my uncle in Boston, right, Hanano, who all of you have met, I think at some point, right, when he first went to study at Aish Torah in Israel, so Rabbi Weinberg, blessed memory, asked him, I believe I could double check the story with my uncle, but he asked my uncle, what's your name? And he said, my name is Hanano Avraham. And they spent time studying about what that name means and who you're supposed to become, because your name tells you so much about who you are and what your mission is. My name is Noah. So part of what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to live in some sort of restful fashion, and I'm supposed to bring rest or calm to others. That's what I'm supposed to do. I try, right? But this is part of my name. And then, okay, let me learn about my name. So this is a phenomenal thing to, as we enter into the book of Shemos, of the book of Exodus, right? Understanding what the mission of the Jewish people is. We need to understand and think about ourselves. What's my mission? What's my Hebrew name, right? What's my name? What does that say about me? Or what do people call me? And then go ahead and work on becoming the best me. No matter where we are, whether we're big, bold, and beautiful, the way the Jews were before they became slaves in Egypt, or even when they were the actual slaves in Egypt. Part of what was a worry for Pharaoh was the fact that, why can't I control these Jews? Why can't I do it? And that was something that really disturbed Pharaoh. And that's why he felt like he had to kill us, or he had to turn us similar to what the Nazis did to us. They tried to make us subhuman. Forget your name. You're not a name. You're just a Jud, right? You're just a star. You're just a number. You don't have a name. You're a number. You're a thing, is what you are. And that's what they tried to do to us, make us subhuman. So we lose that reality of who we are and what we are and why we are. And I think that really, so it's not so complicated. Why is it called the Book of Exodus? Okay, it's the story of the Exodus. But the way we refer to it in the Torah world is the Book of Shemos, the book of names. Because that's who we are, what we are, no matter where we are, no matter what's going on. We strive to be our best selves in that situation. Just like Joseph. Joseph was in prison. He carried himself like a prince when he was in prison, and people gravitated towards him because they recognized royalty, even though he was stuck in the dungeon. And I'm sure we've all met people like that. They may have been from a very poor situation, but they carry themselves with a certain strength and a certain demeanor and a certain royalty, confidence, because they know who they are, what they are, even though they might not have the most money or the best situation. But that doesn't stop them, because you got to walk with confidence, because you're you. And that's an amazing thing. God willing, we should all merit to take a little bit of time over the course of Shabbos, or the course of the Book of Shemos, take some time to learn about ourselves, learn about our Hebrew name, do some research on it. If you need some help with research, I'm happy to help you research, figure out who that individual was. If you have a biblical name, we can find out more about that individual in the Torah and learn more about them. And God willing, with that, help us figure out what our mission is in life. What are we supposed to do? And if we do that, we'll bring the ultimate redemption to the world, and everybody will understand a lot better who they are, what they are, why they are. And everyone will be able to fulfill the mission of why we have this amazing world, and we'll try to use it really, really well. All right.